Welcome back to our very first truly live episode of He's a Giant. I'm Sal. I'm here with my co-host Monty. What's going on, brother?
What's going on? Looks like we have some of our friends here in the chat. Thank you guys for being here. We're looking forward to doing this mock with you guys.
We are live. We are live. Thank you, everybody who's joined us. I see One T's in here. I see Momo's in here. Peter's in here. I see Kenny. Thank you guys. Showing love. We appreciate it. Everybody who filters in. This is our first ever live pod. We're going to do a community mock draft, 7 rounds of the Giants. What's up, Doug Analytics? I see you in here. D-Kit. Love you guys. All right. Don, my boy Don. I'm going to have to keep naming people. Chris. All right. So let me focus. This is why we don't do this live, because I can't focus. I also discovered an amazing beverage. I'll share it with you guys later. Whoever complained about my slurping sound when I drink, fuck you. So sorry. Sorry. Never mind. I'm going to do what I got to do. All right. So the rules of our mock draft are going to be, we're going to go through all 7 rounds. We are not going to make trades. Keep that in mind. Trades are not allowed. So we're going to ask you guys for your input. It's a community mock draft. So we're going to talk about what we would do. You guys tell us what you want to do. We'll go with the consensus. But keep in mind, no trades allowed, and that's what's going to be the process of picking these players. But before we go into the mock draft, we got a couple of quick Giants things to go over. Coaching stuff. Monty, tell us what the hell is going on with our coaching staff.
Yeah, man, we have some interesting stuff happen the last couple of days. A lot of news / not news, I guess. I mean, Mike Kafka is kind of staying. It seems like they think he's going to stay, but it's not like official yet. I don't know. It seems like a positive sign. Jordan Ronan is putting something out that's the expectation. So, we heard that before, but it's being reiterated. So that's one thing. And we'll talk about that. And the other thing is, I know a guy that was a favorite by a lot of Giants fans, and really what everybody thought was a favorite for the job, brought in for a second interview, Denard Wilson. He got hired by the Tennessee Titans. So where does that leave us for the defensive coordinator hunt? I said we start with Mike Kafka, though.
All right. So Renan is saying Mike Kafka is expected to be back. So it sounds like he will be back. Like Wink was expected to be back. Monty didn't want to hear this when I told him this earlier. Wink was expected to be back. Where's Wink now? He's unemployed. He's not on the Giants. Mike Kafka didn't get a job. I want him back. We both want him back as our coordinator. But here's the thing, man, and this is what Monty and I are going to fight about this. if it's true that Dable took away his play calling multiple times, and if it's true that Dable's going to take away his play calling this year, and let's just say the 8 teams that are looking for a coordinator right now are calling and asking about Mike Kafka, and he would like to consider making a lateral move. If the Giants block him from going while taking him away from his responsibilities as a play caller, that's kind of a dick move in my opinion. And for a team that just went through a bunch of series of dick moves against their coaches to the point where nobody wants to come here, I don't think that's the best look. I don't think it's the smartest thing to do, especially if you're taking away play calling. But you seem to have a different view on this.
Yeah, so I mean, we talked a bit about this a little bit before, but I don't know. My opinion on it is, I mean, I didn't know what was going on. We heard a lot about, the fact that might let Mike Kafka make a lateral move. So I didn't know if they actually wanted to keep him. But if my understanding is, from what it sounds like, is they want to keep him, and it sounds like they would block a lateral move based off of Jordan Ronan's report. I mean, I could be wrong, but that's what I would assume is what is being said. To me, if Mike Kafka wanted to leave, and I'm not saying that he wouldn't want to make a lateral move, that's not saying, but if he truly wanted to get out of there, the way these things happen is a mutual parting ways to start the offseason. That's what you see. You see that all the time. I mean, it happened with Wink, but it was a lot more toxicity with that one. But in general, that's where you see it happen. I don't think anyone expects a team to like be strung along and hold on to an offensive coordinator and like let alone like, oh, maybe if I get a job or I don't get a job, I'll stay. Like, it's not how it works. Like, I don't think anyone expects us to have to like let him make a lateral move. I know it's not like an ideal situation, but we're not the first team to like hold on to an unhappy coach. I mean, Brian Dable was in Buffalo and he wanted to leave. They didn't let him, and he showed up and he did his job. Even He's a lot more of an asshole from it sounds like than Mike Kafka. So
Yeah, that worked out real well for his personality development. It made him a better human being. Here's where I stand on it. If the guy wants to go for legitimate reason, which is that his head coach is saying to him, I don't trust you enough to call the offense, I'm taking over. And what you're going to do is just prepare the offense on the sideline. I mean, at that point, considering what everything that's gone on, number one, you're already stripping him of a lot of his responsibilities. I don't see what's in it for the Giants to hold on to the guy at that point if he wants to go. If he wants to stay and you want to keep him, whatever. But I'm just saying, in the event that a team wants him and he wants to go and you're taking away his play calling, I don't think it's cool to take away his opportunity to go and do this somewhere else, especially considering the shit show we've been. We've already had a hard time getting coaches here. I don't think you're making it any easier as an organization to draw in talent if this is how you treat people. That's kind of where I stand on that.
yeah,
We'll see
I
what
mean,
they do, but that's where I am.
I hear you. I know it's not like the nicest thing, but at the same time, I think at this point, with the fact that it hasn't been like settled and they didn't get this figured out early in the offseason, it's kind of like business is business. There's this type of shit happens all the time in the NFL. I don't think it's so uncommon for a team to let somebody make a lateral move. And I'll say to the point, and we've talked about this, I don't want to strip Mike Kafka of his play calling. And
No,
what
I agree.
what I hope they do, this is what I hope. I understand that like this is a must-year win for Dable, and like there's a chance that he might need to take over play calling. But everything went wrong last year. It's not just Kafka's fault. It's not just Dable's fault. Everything went wrong with the offense. In my opinion, you let Mike Kafka plan to call the plays going into the year. If things are still going bad and you feel the change needs to be made, then you make it and you make it for good. You ride out the year and you let Mike Kafka go at the end of the year, but you give him one more chance going into at least to start the year, improve and give him a chance to hold on to the job. That's my opinion, but we'll see what
quick shout out. I see my buddy Jabri's in here. What's up, Jabri? You didn't miss anything except Monty bullshitting about Mike Kafka's future. DK asks, are they taking away play calling? Did Dable say that? That's rumors. It was initially speculated on by Bobby Skinner on Talking Giants a few weeks back that Dable plans on taking away play calling. So we'll see. We'll see what they do. Maybe they don't take away play calling. We both want him to stay, meaning Kafka. We want him to call plays, but it's going to be an interesting next few weeks. Let's go to defense real quick. We lost we didn't get Denard Wilson. That's a whole long story. I think he didn't want to come here because there's a lot of instability with the coaching staff future. So I think it's fair that he didn't come here. That's his decision. Where do the Giants go from here? I know you and I want the same guy hired. What do you think?
Yeah, man. I think Jerome Henderson is the move. And like, look, I would if it wasn't me, Jerome Henderson. Like I said this to you. I would, as much as Denard Wilson excited me, and I think he's a high like ceiling defensive coordinator. Bringing in a guy with no play calling experience who doesn't have familiarity with this team made me nervous. And if you're gonna pick a guy who doesn't have play calling experience, I want to bring in the guy who has continuity with the coaches on this team, with the players on this team, with the defense we are running. I think that is going to be the smoothest transition given how big of a shit show it was with the Wink leaving and the bad taste that left in people's mouth. Making being a must-win year and trying to keep things as much continuity as you can. And quite frankly, Jerome Henderson's a great coach, and I think he deserves the opportunity.
I agree. I think Jerome Henderson's the guy. We both want him hired. Just hurry up and hire him. I don't want to hear about the Leslie Frazier interviews for next week. I don't care about these other dudes. Just keep the dude in house. Do it right for once. Promote somebody good. That's what we're rooting for. I see a lot of comments about me being 3 sheets to the wind, Sal from outer space. I see Kwame's in here. He was on crack. And I see Momo saying Matt Patricia's incoming. Momo, if Matt Patricia is the coach, I will find you and I will find your home address and give it to C-Web. So you better hope that doesn't happen because he's going to come and hug you.
Momo is going to manifest fucking Matt Patricia to us like I manifested Dan Quinn to watch.
What's up, Rob? What's everybody? All right. K Sexy's in here in the house. Look at this. We got a lot of people going. All right. You want to get this thing rolling with the mock draft?
Yeah, let's just get into it. So I'm going to pull it up
All
and we're
right.
just gonna go ahead and do
So
the seven-man group.
reminder for everybody who came late. We're going to go through all the Giants picks every round. The rules are there are no trades. So we're going to talk about who we can take, and we're going to let you guys have the final say, and we'll go with consensus on the pick. Monty and I have consistently said we have a day one quarterback problem. As far as this draft is concerned, we have one day one quarterback, but we are open to suggestions. So let's go. Why don't you kick it off, Monty? Let's see what happens with the first 5 picks.
All right,
Read them.
so
Read them off.
yep, let's start it up. We went Caleb Williams number 1, Drake May number 2, Marvin Harrison Jr. number 3,
Oh.
Malik Neighbors number 4, Brock Bowers number 5.
Oh, so Jaden Daniels is on the board, folks. This is not going to happen in real life. This is not going to happen. But I guess
Hey,
it
never know.
could.
A lot of shit can change still.
All right. So can you, Doug Analytics asking, can you zoom in at all? Is there a way to pull up the draft to make it a little closer?
Yeah, let me see what I can do. There we go. I think
That's
that's
a little
better.
better. All right. So on the board, we have Jaden Daniels. What's the pick, folks? I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 votes for Jaden Daniels. Jabri is booing the process. I agree. Doug Analytics appreciates the Zoom. There we go. All right.
Bo Nix, anyone? Bo Nix at 6?
All right. Okay. So the quarterbacks available: Daniels, Nix, Penix, McCarthy, and of course the illustrious Michael Pratt, who is ultimately who the Giants are really going to pick. But let's not talk about that right now. Jaden Daniels, because we're having fun. I'm enjoying myself right now. That's my vote. If we're going to stick true to the board, I don't think it's going to play out this way. But what do you think, Monty?
Yeah, man. I mean, look, if there's anybody that's going to fall, I think it would be Jaden Daniels. We'll see if the hype that's going around him is real or not. Patriots need a quarterback. It's hard for me seeing past on him, but if he's here, I think that's the way I go. You know, there's Joe Rumba Dunze, but I think I think the move here is to take the quarterback.
It looks like everybody wants Jaden Daniels. I think that's a big. I'll discuss this for 1 second. There's a way where this could happen in real life. I don't think it's the way it played out on the board. I think it's that the Washington Commanders will always make the wrong decision. Whatever it is that they do, it is the wrong decision. I can see them doing something really stupid and then leaving a quarterback that falls right to us. So it's not impossible that Jaden Daniels falls to us. You and I were both a little skeptical of Daniels coming in, but the kid has definitely won us over. So I think he's the best player on the board right here. 1T's going to ride. He's going to shoot me tomorrow in spaces. We didn't take Penix. But I think the correct pick here is Jaden Daniels, and it sounds like the consensus agrees. What do you think, Monty? Are we putting in the pick?
Yep. There's a few people the other way, but it seems like for the most part, the consensus is Jaden Daniels, and we both seem to agree with it. So let's go ahead and roll Jaden Daniels.
All right, Jaden Daniels. The Giants take Jaden Daniels with the 6th overall pick in the first round. All right. So, and we're going fast forwarding to our next pick, which is 39 overall. Where are we?
We are. And
tell us who just went.
So who just went? We had Tez Walker. I don't even know the Yale tackle, Mega G. I don't know, Lad McConkey, TJ Tampa, Chris Jenkins, and Tyler Guyton. I know a guy that we are both. Well, a couple guys here I would really like, but I know a guy we both really like. Troy Fontenot is sitting right here.
Before we commit to a pick, let's just talk about how the draft is going and what our strategy here is. We got lucky. This could happen, right? Day one, you get lucky. One of the top 3 quarterbacks falls to you. You took them. You didn't have to trade up. Cool. What do the Giants need right now that meets value? We need an offensive line. You and I have been big on getting an offensive lineman with tackle guard versatility. Fontenot is definitely the best in the class. I see no way in reality that this guy is sitting here at 39, but crazy things happen. We need a wide receiver. We need an edge rusher. I think those are our top priorities. And you can make an argument for cornerback. What are your thoughts on this, Monty?
Yeah, I mean, just some names that stand out to me, just going through here. Troy Fontenot, you just talked about him. We're both big fans of him. I definitely would be for that. Keon Coleman. I think this is becoming more and more possible. I mean, I didn't really buy the wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 hype, but I love the value of Keon Coleman here with the 39th pick. A. Mitchell, Zach Frazier, Xavier Leggett, Chop Robinson has been dropping in these PFF drafts.
for
Realistically,
mhm,
um, he
for good
might he
reason.
yeah, he doesn't have the production, but he's a good player. And then Tyler Newbin, Cameron Kinchins. There's definitely some names here. What is everyone in the chat? Oh, and Graham Barton. Good call there.
So
Graham Barton is another great
I'm
player.
seeing Fountain now receiver, Fountain now, Fountain now, Fountain now, Coleman Mitchell, Fountain now Mitchell, Fountain now, Fountain now or Mitchell, Fountain now. Fountain now. If you don't take Fountain now, you are fired. Thank you very much. Quarterback, edge, wide receiver from 1T. Momo says take Ellis. That's interesting. Momo says go with Jonah Ellis, the edge rusher from, I think it's from Oregon. I'm sorry, from Utah. So I feel like this is a little rich for Jonah Ellis personally. I know he's a very good edge rusher. He's a good prospect. He has a 7, as you can see there, his pass rush win rate is 17.9%, which is solid, not elite, but pretty good for where we're picking. This would not be a bad pick here. Don't be surprised if the Giants go edge rusher here. I think it's a good thought process that edge rusher matters here. Wide receivers matter here. The wide receivers left. Can you go through them again quickly before we make
Sure.
our pick?
Yeah, let's pull them up. We have Keon Coleman, A.D. Mitchell, Jermaine Burton, Xavier Leggett, Xavier Worthy, Jalen Polk, Ricky Paracel. That's really probably where.
So the reason we're going through this is that there are a lot of receivers left, and I do think this is realistic. There are going to be a lot of receivers left. Don't forget, we have a second round pick, folks, and this is a deep class, at wide receiver. I think if you really want a receiver, there's not a lot separating the guys left on that board. I will argue in favor of Keon Coleman getting a little bit more love than he's getting. I think he was definitely underutilized in the Florida State offense. The dude is great in contested catches. He was outstanding in crossers and slants, but I think he ran only a total of like 16 or 17 slant routes all year. All they ran were comeback routes and curls in Florida State because Jordan Travis has the arm of a 90-year-old man, and now he has no legs. I'm sorry, Jordan Travis, but you're not an NFL quarterback. But I think we can get a wide receiver later. Fountain now is a first-round prospect. If he was lucky enough to fall to us, I would vote for Fountain now here. What about you, Monty?
Yeah, I mean, if I could be confident that Graham Barton was going to be there at the next pick, I'd feel decent about it. But I very well think both these guys will be gone. Although Keon Coleman, I think, is really excites me. I mean, it doesn't even seem like that's consensus in the chat. It seems like there's a lot of people who want A.D. Mitchell. Seems like there is a good split there. Seems like for the most part, people who want an offensive line want Troy Fontenot. You know how big of a fan I am of his as well. I've said it. I think he is offensive tackle 3 in this class. I like him more than Fuaga. For people who say that Fontenot has to play guard, and
I don't agree.
I think Fuaga is the one who I would think might have to play guard. I think Troy Fontenot would be a very good guard. I think he'd play guard well. I think he can stay at tackle. I think you can put him at guard. And if Evan Neal continues to struggle, I think it's likely Troy Fontenot ends up at tackle. I think the only reason Evan Neal would stay at tackle is because Fontenot translates to guard better, and if he can just hold up and become a quality NFL player out there, just for everyone playing the right positions, that's probably why.
I'll take it a step further. I don't see a world in which Evan Neal beats out Troy Fontenot at right tackle because Troy Fontenot is technically so good. He has a really wide base. He has a good anchor. He's got that wrestler's approach to things. He has good arm length. I mean, I don't know what the issue is with this guy.
36 inches.
Yeah, I mean, he has good lateral agility. You cannot move him off the spot very easily. He's athletic. I think he's getting a lot of ridiculous hate in terms of being a tackle, the same way Rashawn Slater did, the same way Peter Skoronski did. I think Fontenot is an outstanding player. If he falls here, to me, this is an easy pick. Fontenot. O'Don is asking who are the D-line available. It's probably worth looking at D-line and cornerback real quick just to see who's out there because they're definitely positions of need here.
We'll get the edge up too.
Yeah, just quickly go through them. So
Jonah Ellis, Chop Robinson, Brandon Dorless, and Adiza Isaac. The guy wouldn't go. Devondre Sweat, Leonard Taylor. I mean, those interior defensive linemen definitely are worth looking at on the way back. I think as is Jonah Ellis and Chop Robinson. I think these guys are.
They'll be
Go
there in
ahead.
the next pick. They'll be there in the next pick, and I think a lot of them will be there honestly at 70. So I'm very comfortable here saying my vote is for Troy Fountain now.
I agree. Let's go ahead. I think we talked about it enough, and we have another pick coming up. So let's go ahead and pick them. Big fan of Troy Fontenot.
Let's
Great
put
pick,
put
I
it
think there.
put in the pick.
Ooh, wow. This is a top of a board here. This is, I think, leaves some arguments here.
All right.
Keon
So
Coleman fell.
why don't you tell me who went after Fountain now to give our listeners and our viewers here a chance to see what the board looks like.
Sure. So Jonah Ellis went, Graham Barton went, Zach Frazier went, Xavier Worthy went, AD Mitchell went, Xavier Leggett went, and
Mm,
then Jermaine Burton. So
okay. So Coleman is there. So go
as
through the.
Chop Robinson.
All right. So now we're at pick. What are we at? 47.
Yep.
This is the pick we got for um, the Leo Williams trade. Jabri said the clock ran out on the Giants. All right, we'll hurry it the fuck up. Jesus Christ. So, um, you can still go edge rusher. You can go cornerback. You can go wide receiver here. Keon Coleman is looking very enticing here. Who are the other wide receivers available? Just if you don't mind looking.
Yep. Let's pull it up. Polk and Parasol, Rice, McMillan, Roman Wilson. I think I mean, you can make an argument for Polk here, but I think
Mm-hmm.
Keon Coleman, especially for our need for like a true X, if we're gonna go that way, I think he would make a lot of sense here.
Let's see what people are saying in the chat here. There's still I see. Let
I
me
see a
see.
lot of chop.
I see Chop. I see Coleman. I see Chop. I see
Don't take Quentin
Quinion.
Mitchell,
So
sir.
Quinion Mitchell is probably gone by now. And realistically, the Senior Bowl he's at, he's going top 15,
Yeah, he's
at
gone.
least top 20. I see Chop Chop Chop. Peter, that counts as one, not three. Chop or Coleman. Coleman. What about the cornerbacks? I don't think there's going to be a lot of good cornerbacks left that are worth this pick, but you can take a look. And then edge rushers here.
Kalen King is, I could see him going anywhere between like now, and I could see him going like late day 3. He's
Have you
hasn't had a drop.
have you
Or
seen
late day
Kalen
2.
King at the Senior Bowl?
He's gotten toasted a couple times.
He's getting cooked. Kalen King should have gone back to school. He really had an awful year at Penn State this year. He's not doing himself any favors. There is no universe in which I see Kalen King going this early in the draft. His stock is collapsing. So I wouldn't touch him. I think there are better corners that we can consider. I don't. I see Chop. I see Dorius. I see Coleman. It sounds like, don't discount the safety need. Also, folks, like
Tyler
if
Nubin's a great value.
Tyler Nubin is sitting there, he might be safety one in this class. Actually isn't our guy still in there from
Who?
Miami? Cam Kinchis is right there,
Yep.
and it's worth talking about him. But go ahead.
One other thing I want to throw too. I think we'll end up going with one of the guys we've talked about, but worth mentioning, Devontae Sweat and Leonard Taylor are also here with an interior defensive line need, but they very well could, where they're on this board, could be their next round. But worth mentioning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What about the defensive linemen? Are you pulling those up? Do you have those up right now?
Yeah.
I see Dorius is. I mean, Dorius is still there. He's a good lineman. What other linemen are up there? Those are the edge.
Nikai Wingo.
All right, there's a fall off here.
Yeah.
There's a fall. So this comes down to, do you believe in Chop Robinson or not? That's really the question on this pick. I have to be honest. I don't think I do. Chop Robinson, I was very excited about coming into the year. His size has been a problem. He has an incredible win rate, but he wins on one move and one move alone, and that is being fast as shit. He doesn't have the power you need necessarily to consistently win with power. He doesn't have a repertoire of spin moves and other counter moves that I think you would like to see in an edge rusher, number one. I think there's a lot of potential there, but he's a little undersized. I'm a little skeptical. Don said Chop Robinson built like BTE. Yeah, he is. He's little. I'm not comfortable taking Chop here. What about you, Monty?
I definitely would be. I was very for potentially getting Chop here, but then Keon Coleman fell. I like Chop Robinson. I think with the way he's falling, this is your chance of getting a high upside edge rusher, which is we desperately need. But I love the value of Keon Coleman here, man. There's been definitely been a split, but it seems like in the chat there's been a late push here for Coleman. Um,
And Don said an interesting name here, Coleman or Mikey Sainristil. It's worth mentioning Mikey Sainristil here because he may go earlier than people think. Mikey Sainristil is the cornerback slash nickel from Michigan who was just lighting it up the end of the year. He plays a good nickel. He plays safety in zone. It's a big hitter, converted wide receiver. The guy's going to rise. Really a great player to have on your team. I think we might get him at 70. I really do. I think he could be there at 70, but it's
this
possibly
is
more
too
than.
this is too early for a nickel corner for me.
Yeah. But it's a good
Unless
thought.
you're like Brian Branch level.
Yeah. Um, Brooklyn writes Kayvon sucks. Well, even if he does, I don't think Chop Robinson helps him too much. That's the problem. I do think we need more of a power interior guy or a power rusher from the edge. I am more in favor of taking Coleman here. What about you?
I think so too. And we look here that he does not have the best grades from PFF. But you know, if when you turn the tape, he is an athletic freak. He makes some special catches to go up and get a football, and he's only 20 years old still. This is a guy who is a really young player. It's a lot of room to grow. 6'4", 215 pounds, very athletic. I think Keon Coleman's an incredible value to pair up with our new quarterback, Jaden Daniels, and give him a guy to stretch the field with.
I agree. Keon Coleman, I think, is a guy who's being very undervalued right now. I think getting him here at 47 is incredible value for a guy who was being mocked in the top 15 not that long ago. And I think he has suffered because he's played in an offense with Jordan Travis. So I say take Keon Coleman. Let's get on with this draft.
Yep, we drafted. And I say we took a quarterback with our first pick. We surrounded him with a tackle slash guard and a wide receiver. That's how you build a football team.
There you go. Our offense is well taken care of in these first 3 picks. We got 4 more picks to go, folks, including a top 100 pick. We got to build that defense out. I think we have to start looking in that direction. So why don't you see what? So let's see what happened here. I don't think we have to go through all the picks, but it looks like who are the guys who went just before us?
Sure.
So I saw
To finish out the second round, Leonard Taylor went to the 49ers.
that sucks.
Yeah, Kalen King, J.J. McCarthy, Devondre Sweat, Sion Viaki, and Jalen McMillan. So a lot of players I really like there. So that's tough to watch. But
Viaki is such a patriot. I agree with that. Can play like 8 positions. All right, so who's on the board here? So I think not that you want to go like by position group, but we have given 3 players to the offense. It's probably wise to look at defense. I'm kind of leaning in that direction. Let's see who are the best players on the board right now.
yeah,
So
let me just click all the defensive positions right now and sort through them. So,
I know who I want.
So yeah, I think I do too. But Kalen Bullock, I know if anybody watched our safety review, we're not huge on him. He gets, he's a big playmaker. He can get you interceptions, but he's gonna cause you more trouble than he's worth, in our opinion. So I would not be advocating here. Peyton Wilson, been tearing up the Senior Bowl. A guy we were very high in our previews. Super athletic. He's a freak list guy. Definitely somebody I advocate for. Rukaroro. He's an upside interior defensive lineman. Junior Colson.
He's a one gapper. He's like a very athletic one gapper, and it's something that could fit us as a 3 tech. Junior Colson's a good linebacker from Michigan, solid player. Bullard is a safety / nickel from Georgia. Dwayne Carter. I see people gassing him up. Let me stop at Dwayne Carter for a second. Dwayne Carter is a perfect example of why Senior Bowl reps don't mean a goddamn thing. Dwayne Carter is the most boring player on earth to watch in real game film. He's just a slow-footed, run-stopping D lineman, but in one-on-ones, he's blowing people up. He does not do that in real games. Don't fall for it. That's my take on it. I see some votes here that I agree with. I'll get to them in a second. Who are the other players, Monty?
Mikey Sanders still on the board. That's definitely a consideration here.
Mm-hmm.
Mikey Smith, Mason Smith's a little bit down the line. So yeah, I mean, we can pull it and then also just look at the top players in general here.
I think I've seen enough. I think this comes down to, do you want Peyton Wilson, Rukaroro, or do you want Mikey Sanders still? Is that fair to say? at this
Yep.
pick?
I think so. I mean, like, especially because we already addressed wide receivers, guys like Malachi Corley and Norman Wilson. I saw Jabri mention Blake Corum, worth mentioning.
I love
But
Blake Corum, but I think there are running backs we can get that'll be a little bit later that we can grab that are really good. And I do think, look, Xavier McKinney may not be a giant. We have to deal with that reality. So our secondary is going to need help. Not that it's a 1-to-1 fix, but we need as many hard hitting, tackling, coverage guys back there as possible. Mikey Sanders still is a fantastic player. He has great ball skills. He was a converted wide receiver. You saw him come up big in the Big Ten championship game. You saw him come up big against Ohio State. You saw him come up big in the playoffs. He's a prime time player. I'm all for Mikey Sanders still here. I see a lot of people voting for him. I see 1T, Kevin. Who else? I see a few other votes. Mace is voting for Sanders still. What's up, Mace? Um, yeah. Don is saying Sanders still. I don't see votes for a lot of other people.
there was
Mace
some
said
Wilson early, but it seems going Sanders still now. Some
Mace
Rook.
is mentioning Jerry and Jones as a sleeper. I agree. I don't know if I take him at this pick. Um,
And worth mentioning here, people brought up the Christian Haynes here. There are some good interior offensive linemen. I still think there's some depth here that we could do this later. Also, I love Christian Haynes, but the fact that we already went Troy Fontenot, I'd lean away from it. But he is a
yeah,
fantastic player.
Yeah, I mean, if the Giants wanted to use this draft just to load up their line, I wouldn't be opposed to Christian Haynes here at all. He's a fantastic guard out of UConn. His film against Michigan in 2022 is teaching film, dominating a dominant defensive line. Maybe the most underrated guard in this draft, as far as I'm concerned. I don't know where he'll land on draft day, but I would love to have him on the Giants, especially if we don't get a guy like that now early. But we got him in this draft. So my vote is Sanders still. I think the majority of our viewers here are saying Sanders still. What do you think, Monty?
I'm fine with Sanders still. I'll just make one case before we go to it. The guy who I personally would go with would be Peyton Wilson. I think Peyton Wilson's a do-it-all linebacker. I think he's a guy who could help your edge room and also and just bring a third linebacker to this defense. He is a low missed tackle rate. He was successful in coverage. He's a freak athlete who can run sideline to sideline. He can help you as a pass rusher. He's everything I look for in a modern day linebacker, and he's been killing up this Senior Bowl. 6'4", 238 pounds. I'm here for Sanders still. We really need cornerback help. Probably more. I would say definitely more than we need linebacker. We also need edge and kind of helps that room a little bit. So that's my argument. But what does the chat think? Are we Sanders still or Wilson?
I'm just gonna scroll through real quickly. Can everybody put in their vote one last time for Sanders still or Wilson? Because we're down to those two. Just put in one name and we'll go with it because I see a little bit of differing opinions here. I see Wilson, Wilson, Wilson. Look at that. He's winning. Sanders still. Wilson's up 4-2. Wilson's up 5-2. Anybody else? Sanders still 5-3. Wilson. Sanders still 5-4. 6-4. Wilson. 6-5. Knicks. The Knicks, yes. Wilson. 1T's trying to give a negative vote. That doesn't count. It's tied 6-6. 7-6. Sanders still. 1 for Bullock. All right, we can't do this all night.
Going once.
Going
twice.
7-7 Wilson. All right.
All right, next vote wins.
8 May says Wilson. All right, let's go with I see Wilson. Wilson. Let's go. Mason's voting like 4 times. I love it. So vote vote early, vote often. All right. I don't agree with this pick, but the crowd says Peyton Wilson. I think he's a very good player. I know you wanted him. I think Mikey Sanders still is a badass, but we're going to go with the crowd here. That was what we promised. So we're taking Peyton Wilson. Look, Peyton Wilson's an outstanding linebacker. He's very athletic. He covers very well. I think that it doesn't necessarily fit our needs, but I won't be upset if we add him. I think the value of a nickel corner is much greater than a linebacker. And Don says you're trying to get Joe Shane fired. I agree. I would have gone with Sanders still, but the crowd said Wilson, so we're going to Wilson. All right. So we still need a nickel corner. Hit Wilson. Did you do it?
Yeah, I hit him, and Sanders still ended up going 84 to the Steelers.
And what pick do we have?
We now have 107 next.
Yeah. All right. So
And we
have
had 70, so we went 14 picks after.
all right. So far we have. Let's recap our draft. So far we got Jaden Daniels at 6, which was lucky. We got Troy Fount now at 39, which was amazing. We got at 47 Keon Coleman, and we got Peyton Wilson at 70. That's a good draft so far. Solid players, just adding good players. That's the name of the game. We got 3 more picks to go. All right. So we still need more defensive help. We could use a running back. Who's on the board?
So let's go over real quick who went. Josh Newton, who I would have been a big fan of here, still needing quarterback need. Spencer Rattler, Javon Baker, Cooper Beebe. I know a lot of people are a big Cooper Beebe fan. I'm sure he would have got some votes if he lasted. And Tyke Smith. So, but available here. Shout out Bucky Irving. I've made the case. I don't think that there's a true stud running back in this draft. So with that said, Bucky Irving's my running back one. I think what he brings in the pass game is special. I know one tease here in the chat. We got Audric Estime here if we're gonna go running back. We have Darius Robinson, who's been tearing up the Senior Bowl, freak athlete. I think he could move in, be a 5-tech, and fill that Leonard Williams role. Cedric Van Pran, Michael Hall Jr., another guy who could be that 5-tech. Marshawn Lloyd, Zach Zinter as a redshirt project, Jaden Hicks at safety. I'm sure I'm missing people. So
all right, let's go back. Let's go through these guys real quick so everybody knows who we're talking about. Just go back to the top if you don't mind. I'm going to ignore the receiver at the top of the class. It was Aeneas Smith. We already took our receiver here. I don't think we want to go back. Bucky Irving, you talked about, is a fantastic. I think he was averaging 6.4 yards per carry, receiving threat, running threat, has an incredible top gear, big weapon in that Oregon offense. Nelson Caesar is a good edge rusher. I don't think he's a great edge rusher. I don't think his pass rush win rate is elite, but he's solid. Dominic Pooney, this is a guy that Don put me on to. Shout out to Don, who's in the chat. Dominic Pooney is a fantastic offensive lineman out of Kansas. Really can, I think, transition to guard if he wants to, but can stick a tackle. Solid value. We did take Fount now, though. Pritchett from Auburn, I think he's a little bit of an undersized cornerback, if I recall. Not necessarily what I'm looking for. Estime is a baller. Estime is an absolute baller. He's a bowling ball, baby Bettis type running back right up the middle and knock people over. I love it.
Local kid too.
Yeah. Now I'm going to stop with the one I want, and I'll tell you guys who I want. Darius Robinson, edge rusher from Missouri. So for those of you who have been paying attention to our show, know that I've been banging the drum for Darius Robinson. This is a freak athlete. Now, I'll tell you right now, there is zero chance in hell this guy is getting to 100 and something. Dan Jeremiah had him ranked as 32nd overall on his big board, which is nuts. He's a big riser. So this guy, Robinson, we talked about him, I think, a week ago. He has played every position on the interior D-line for years, and this year he transitioned more to edge, 5-tech. He's a big dude. He's like 6'5", 290. I think he weighed in at like 286 at the Senior Bowl. Really explosive first step, powerful rusher, knocks guys backwards, is just beginning to learn how to rush the passer, just beginning to develop a pass rush move from the edge. But even if you stick him as a 3-tech right now, I think he's a dominant interior rusher. Look at those grades, 17% pass rush win rate, elite grades across the board against the run, against the pass. If by some miracle Darius Robinson was here, I don't know how you pass up on him here. That would be my vote. If Darius Robinson came here, you're talking about a dominant interior defensive lineman / edge rusher with power, who I think complements us perfectly. I don't see a realistic way he gets here, but we're just playing the board as it comes to us, right? So that's my vote. Monty, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, man, I had the same thought as you. When I saw him there, I'm as big of a Bucky Irving fan as anybody. And look, we have one T here in the chat who's a big of an Estime fan as anybody. And even he's here saying, bucket, take Robinson, man. And if you look, I know a lot of people are hyping this guy as an edge rusher. We're real live, Dash. I know people are hyping him up as an edge rusher, but look at his grades here. I mean, look at his snaps here. In 2022 and 2021, he played a lot of that B gap, and I think he's like I said, I think he could easily be a guy who can fill that Leonard Williams role. I mentioned he reminds me of a guy of Keon White from last year's draft out of
Yep.
Georgia Tech, who went early second round, and they're both those former basketball players who have that long frame but filled out. He's going to be a high ceiling player in
I'll
the
give you another.
NFL.
I'll give you another comp, which is going to piss people off, but as a prospect, JPP. JPP was this kind of guy. Now, this guy's not as athletic as JPP, but this tall, big, long arm, long limbed, filled out framed interior defensive tackle who can play on the edge. That's a beast. You don't come across a lot of these guys. If he falls to us, you got to take him. So it sounds like I'm looking at the chat. It looks like people are agreeing. I
We
would
agree.
say, yeah.
Cat agrees.
Does he has 8 fingers too? I have no idea. I don't know if he's from Tampa, so I'm not sure if he's blowing up fireworks on the 4th of July. But I would say Darius Robinson. Now, again, we're not being realistic here. We're just playing the board the PFF big board has given us. But I would say Darius Robinson's the pick here.
Yep, we can go ahead and have the running back argument when they move Darius Robinson up this board.
And Don's asking, do we take a safety yet? No, we have not taken a defensive back yet. We've
Really
taken a linebacker, and now we've taken an edge rusher / D lineman, Darius Robinson. All right, we got 2 picks left, right? 143 and 1. So now we're in the part of the draft where fuck it. So the way I look at this part of the draft, day 3, late day 3 is I just want the best player available. Good players fall for stupid reasons, failed medicals, whatever it may be. In real life, I'm looking for the guy that fell here, and I'm taking the best player that fell for whatever stupid reason. But why don't you tell us who's left on the board?
Yeah, so I'll first say Kyrie Jackson from Oregon went 140. So that one hurts a little bit because we could have really used a defensive back here, and he's a long defensive back. Some on the board, some players we've covered in the past. Jordan Travis, we weren't huge fans of. AJ Barner, they're very good blocker, as everyone who might have
He can block really well.
That's about it. Nazir Stackhouse, he is that true run stopper. Max Melton, that's a cornerback we've been big fans of. We've talked about a couple times. That's a guy, especially with our cornerback need. I would definitely make an RB here. There's definitely some names I recognize, but I'm just trying to think of guys we've covered. Luke McCaffrey just made Mr. List. Kamani Vidal, we haven't taken a running back. That was a guy that we covered. I'll show you guys this guy real quick. If you didn't see our preview, just look at some really nice grades, and he was second in the country. And
the chat has decided.
Max Melton.
I agree with them, but let's just go through Kamani Vidal real quick.
I don't disagree with them either. But yeah, I mean, maybe this guy will be your next pick. But over 1,000 yards after contact, 94 missed tackles forced. Those are 2 things that are really important to me in a running back. Senior Bowl is doing well. He has receiving traits, but yeah, we really need defensive backs here. Max Melton, Rutgers kid, brother Bo Melton, plays for the Packers.
I love Max Melton. He was my guy way back when we did this months ago on our cornerback review. Max Melton plays outside, inside. I think he definitely profiles more as a nickel slot cornerback. He's a physical guy. I don't think he has elite speed in terms of makeup speed, but he's a really good tackler. He covers everybody. His issues are that he lacks a little bit in terms of makeup speed, and his ball skills when tracking the ball at the end of the play are a little bit lacking. I think that's coachable. We've seen Jerome Henderson, for example, fix guys doing that. He's taught them how to look back and use his outside hand to break things up. I think this is a good fit for Jerome Henderson. Max Melton immediately can slot in as our nickel corner and compete for an outside spot. He's done really well at Senior Bowl. D-Kit wrote he ran at 21 mile per hour. top speed at the Senior Bowl on GPS. I agree with that. I think Melton is a guy who's being a little bit overlooked right now. If he falls to us on day 3, Melton, I believe Jabri is about 6'1", I want to say. What is he on PFF?
6 foot 190.
6 foot 190. Yeah, he's adequate height, adequate size. He's a physical blocker. He has good speed. I wouldn't say he has elite speed. I think he'll run like a 4.4, which is probably fast enough. But he's a good tackler. He's a really good tackler. He's a very smart cornerback. He diagnoses plays very well. Comes up and helps at the line a lot. I don't think he's your guy who sits on the boundary by himself on an island all the time and travels with guys very well. But I think he's a really useful defensive back. He's kind of like a little bit of a Kirkland version of what Sainristil might do. But I think he's a really good player. I would love him at this pick. What about you, Monty?
Yeah, man. I'm with Max Melton here. You mentioned like some of his issues is that he's always on his receiver. Just he doesn't always turn his head. He's not always in position to make a play on the ball, but he's there. And that's something like you said, I see as coachable. I've seen him. We went and watched the Ohio State tape first him and he competed with some of the best wide receivers in the country. He competed with Marvin Harrison Jr. Unlike a guy like Kalen King, who went earlier in this, who got embarrassed by him. Max Melton didn't get embarrassed. He held his own. At this point, I think he's a cornerback you can put on the football field at the very least. And with our need for a defensive back, I think it's no brainer. I think we're all in agreement here. So let's take Max Melton.
Let's take Max Melton. All right, we got one pick left. One T tried to scare the shit out of me. He said, "Uh-oh, Brunson is down. It looks bad. Never mind. It's only his face." Don't do that to me, One T. I've been waiting a long time. Don't do that to me. All right, where are we? We're on our final pick. Who's here? All right, so let's recap our draft. We got one pick left. Remember, no trades. Jaden Daniels with our first pick. Troy Fountain with our second pick. Keon Coleman with our third pick. That's a ridiculous haul. We took Peyton Wilson, number 4. We took Darius Robinson with our 5th pick, and we got Max Melton with our 6th pick. This is a ridiculously good draft, by the way. We've covered a lot of bases. We've hit every level of our defense. We've gotten a wide receiver. We've gotten a lineman. We've gotten a quarterback. We have not taken a running back. We have not taken a tight end.
So
Saquon Barkley's out there changing agencies, doing a lot of silly things before he signs his 3-year, $20 million contract to be a Giant again, but whatever. So assuming we're going to have to draft someone to take over Saquon, we got to look at running back here, don't you think?
Yeah, I just want to shout out some key names that went after us. AJ Barner, Luke McCaffrey, Nazir Stackhouse, Joe Milton. We had a question about him. We'll get to that later. James Williams, Michael Barrett, Kamani Vidal did go.
That sucks.
Trevor Keegan, Ben Sinnott, your boy.
Oh no.
Cam Hart, Moose Muhammad. So some good names went in that time.
Okay.
But let's take a look at the running back position before we just look at the best.
Ben Sinnott is gone, Don. Painful.
I see a name here who's been killing it in the Shrine Bowl. That I've been
I know. Look who's here. Look who's here on the running back list. All right. So to me, this comes down to 2 guys. So let's go through this. Can you scroll through the running backs real quick?
Yep.
Yeah, you went right to the guy. All right. Just scroll through them. Is that it? Isaiah Davis is there too. Rasheen Ali's there. He's a fast guy. All right, screw all those guys. Frank Gore Jr. is on the board. Frank Gore Jr. Look, holy shit! Was that his grade?
Yep.
Is that Isaiah Davis? Wow.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let's go through Frank Gore Jr. first. Frank Gore Jr., son of Frank Gore Sr., plays at where the hell does he play? Southern Miss, right? So really explosive back, very productive, has like 300-yard games, a little bit smaller than his dad, but a very good player, somebody who might be a useful player here. I think he can be a 2 to 3 down back. I don't know about you, Monty. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, he's a smaller guy. but I think at the very least he could be a 2-down guy and maybe potential being a 3-down guy.
Yeah, to me, this is like one of those NFL bloodline things. You watch the way he plays. He definitely puts on a show like his dad did. I like him. Um, Scroll down a little bit. Let's see the couple more running backs real quick.
Yep. Let's get it. All right. I know some people shouted out I saw Isaac Guerendo in the chat. He has really good numbers as well. Have 90.3 rushing grade.
So what we're looking for these running backs are missed tackles and yards after contact. So looks okay, looks pretty solid here. Uh,
4.1 yards after contact per
that's
attempt.
really
Pretty good.
that's really outstanding. Anything above 3 is good. So that tells you what these running backs are doing without the help of their own line. So that's an option. What was Gore at 3 something?
Yeah, it's like 3.6. Then we got
Okay.
Isaiah Davis here at
Where's Isaiah Davis?
3.96.
Okay, Isaiah Davis. And I think he's at the, if I'm not mistaken, he's actually, is he at the Shrine Bowl or is he at the Senior Bowl? I'm forgetting. But
I
he's
think
at
he's
one
the
of the,
Shrine Bowl.
okay. I mean, this is a guy who has been very highly touted coming out of South Dakota State. You just don't know with South Dakota State sometimes, but very productive back. I like all these guys, honestly. But there was a name you wanted to go over. Why don't you bring him up?
In outside the running backs.
Yep.
Yep. One guy I did want to mention here, a guy that's really interesting player here is Shaheem Bell. Shaheem Bell out of Florida State. You add a tight end, but you add a guy who can give you a little bit of everything. You got a guy who can be a halfback, a guy who can be a fullback, a guy who can be a tight end, a guy who can line up wide at wide receiver. He's a guy who's a true do-it-all player. Jack of all trades of some sort. He's a bigger guy. I think he actually got up. He says 6'3", 239, but I actually think he got up to 250 for the Senior Bowl. So, I still think I'd want to go running back here, but I thought that worth mentioning.
Well, I think this is where it's worth mentioning the best teams just take good players, right? And they load up their roster. You can't ignore the value of a good player. Jaheim Bell, in my opinion, is clearly the best player left on the board here from what I'm seeing. He's putting on a show at the Senior Bowl. We're not surprised. You and I went over his versatility. But I do think taking a running back has high value at this spot, a lot of value. So we're probably looking at a life either with Saquon on his last legs or without Saquon. There's still some productive running backs here. Yeah, I see. Take Bell and sign a UDFA running back. I'm not opposed to that idea. I really am not. Not like we run the ball anyway with anybody but Saquon, so it doesn't matter. So I don't know. I'm torn on here. I think we should take a poll of the audience of our viewers on this one. So why don't you guys tell us if you like one of the running backs, name them, or if you like Bell, name them. We'll go with what you guys say. Monty, what is your vote in this?
I think I'm voting Frank Gore. I might be biased because I'm watching him right now and he's absolutely tearing up the Shrine Bowl game. But my vote is Frank Gore. But I'm really good with really any of the running backs we talked about or Jaheim Bell. What about you? What's your vote, Sal?
Frank Gore, mainly because I've loved his film for a long time, and I think he's an impact player. Running backs, they matter. They don't matter the way some people think they matter, I think, in terms of their financial value, but they still matter. And guys who get the ball 20 times a game are guys who can impact the game. Tight ends don't get the ball 20 times a game. Running backs do. So I want a guy who can impact the game here. I'm going with Frank Gore. I think he's the best running back available. I see a lot of people are voting for Frank Gore here. Looks like he's won the vote pretty easily.
And he's on Kafka's team. That was a good shout out by Don.
Yep, he's coaching him, and he said Frank
Killing it.
Gore. Kafka was just raving about him just now. I think that makes a lot of sense. Put the pick.
Let's get his guy, Frank Gore Jr. We know we love those bloodline picks.
All right. So I think that's our final pick, right? Let's look at our draft board. What kind of grade we got? Probably got a shitty grade. Let's see what we got.
Yeah, they're always gonna hate on our grades.
Who cares? What did they give us?
All right, let's.
Hey, We got
Got
an
an A, guys.
A. We got an A. Let's go through our class again. All right. First pick overall for the Giants at 6 overall. We got Jaden Daniels, who luckily fell to us at 6. Not likely, but not impossible. At 39, we got Troy Fountain now, the tackle slash interior lineman from Washington. That's a home run of a pick, in my opinion. Keon Coleman falls to us at 47. That's a home run of a pick. Don't be surprised if he falls to 47. I think he actually could fall. Great wide receiver, in my opinion, who's being underutilized at Florida State, and he's catching a lot of heat for his offense, not for his skill level. At 70, this was probably the one pick where I disagree with our viewers. They voted for Peyton Wilson.
I didn't.
You didn't, but then again, you're often wrong. So there's that. So, I would have gone Mikey Sandersville here, but it worked out. We got Peyton Wilson, an impact linebacker. We got Darius Robinson at 107. That's not happening in real life, but whatever. We're going to roll with it. Amazing edge rusher / interior lineman. Max Melton, who's a cornerback who can play anywhere in the DB room, as far as I'm concerned. More of a nickel corner in the NFL, I believe. And Frank Gore Jr., halfback from Southern Mississippi, helps finish out, or at least start to finish out, our running back room. This is a good class. We got 4 offensive players. We got our quarterback, we got our tackle, our wide receiver, our running back, we got a linebacker, an edge, and a cornerback hit up every level of the defense. If you got these picks, how would you feel, Monty, coming out of the draft?
I'd be ecstatic. We got our quarterback. We built around them, and we got extreme values at our defense. I'd love this draft. Obviously,
I would
it's not
be
happening, but I'd love it.
Yeah, I would be pretty stoked Saturday evening if we walked away with this haul over 3 days. I'd be incredibly happy. I don't think it's going to play out this way, but we played the board the way it came to us. I think in most boards, there's no way Jaden Daniels falls to us at 6, and we actually thought we were going to be dealing with a situation where we're choosing a wide receiver or a quarterback at 6, and you guys would have to help us make a decision there. I think the consensus would have likely been just take Malik Neighbors or Roma Dunze, who would have been sitting there, and then see what's left at quarterback at 39. But that's not how it played out. But for the sake of the discussion, Monty, if that's what happened, what would you have done? Let me play out the first 5 picks for you, and you tell me what you would do. At 1, Caleb to the Bears. Number 2, Drake May to the Commanders. Jaden Daniels, number 3, to the Patriots. At 4, Marvin Harrison Jr. goes to the Cardinals. And at 5, Brock Bowers to the Chargers. What are you doing at 6?
Look, man, it's a tough situation, and I don't envy Joe Shane for what decision he's gonna have to make here on this. I'll say for a guy just messing around with a PFF big board right now and knowing how these usually play out, I'd probably take Malik Neighbors because you're always gonna get one of these quarterbacks in the second round. That's just how the PFF big board works. But that's a little bit cheating. I would be fine if we went a guy like, I'm a big fan of JJ McCarthy. Look, we have JJ McCarthy rated over Jaden Daniels. I
We
don't
do.
think he's gonna go anywhere near Jaden Daniels,
He
but from
won't.
our tape review, that's who we like more. So with that said, if I'm happy with going Jaden Daniels at 6, I'm gonna be happy with going with JJ McCarthy at 6, a guy who I like more as a prospect.
I am very comfortable taking the quarterback at 6. Personally, I know it's going to piss off a lot of people. Like, why didn't you take the wide receiver? You're taking him too high. I'm going to stay true to what I've been saying. We have a day 1 quarterback problem. There is no guarantee that you're going to be able to trade back into the first round to get the guy you want. If you want one of the other guys, it's a very risky play for a team that needs a quarterback really badly to pass on a good quarterback group to take a wide receiver. As much as I love Malik Neighbors, it would hurt me to not put in Malik Neighbors' name here. I'd probably put in the quarterback I like most. You can flip a coin, whether it's JJ or Penix or whoever. I know that people are going to think that's crazy, but nobody cares when your quarterback is playing and winning games for you. Nobody cares where you drafted him as long as you got it right. Take him anywhere in the first round, it's fine. But I think in reality, what Joe Shane would do, Monty, is I think he would probably play the board. I get the impression that Joe Shane is not going to sit here and take a quarterback at 6 if he can't trade up to 1 or 2. I think what he's likely to do is sit there and say, I've got Roma Dunze sitting there, or I've got Malik Neighbors. I'm taking one of them. If I had to guess, I think the Giants would take Neighbors over Odunze.
I
Um,
agree.
and I think they would do everything in their power to trade back up into the first round to secure either McCarthy or Penix. That's what I think. That's what I think they'll try to do. What about you?
Yeah, man, I can see it. I mean, and look, I Nick's had a little bit better day today. I know that's not the guy we're necessarily advocating for, but at the same time, if he, we'll see how he does in the game. He had a, like I said, a better day 3 of practice, and we have Shea Teenery working with him, so that matters. So, there's 6 quarterbacks that I think are worth taking with a first round pick, at least somewhere in there, and I definitely see him going that route. But with that said, do we want to try to take a few questions before we close this thing out?
Yep, let's do it. If anybody has any questions, anything you want to talk about, throw it in the chat. We have never done a live chat before, so we have no idea how to do this. So just put it in the chat and we'll figure it out.
I'll put it up on the screen. We'll get it. One I'll point out while we're waiting. We had a question from somebody who couldn't make it, and he wanted to ask us about our thoughts about Joe Milton. I'll
Ah,
let you give some of your thoughts about it, but
Joe Milton is going to be an amazing tight end in the NFL, like a great tight end three. Joe Milton has been in college since I've been in college, and I'm damn near 46 years old. So um, Joe Milton, in my opinion, is not a true quarterback prospect. He's been in college for 6 years. He has an absolute cannon of an arm. He can sling that thing 80 yards. He has not developed any accuracy, any kind of refined passing game. I think he's what, 25 years old at this point, 24, 25 years old, somewhere in that territory. The
yeah,
idea that Joe Milton is going to develop into something when he spent 6 years in college and hasn't developed into something yet, I think is halfway laughable. I know people talk about him as developmental. You're not developing a guy who's been in college for 6 years. Um, I am not interested at all in Joe Milton. Somebody's going to take him because of his arm, but we're talking about a day three guy. If somebody takes him day two, I'd be shocked. What about you?
yeah, man. I people bring up Anthony Richardson. The comps I bring for Joe Milton. I think you look at Tyree Jackson, a guy who from Buffalo. I think you look at a guy like Logan Thomas out of Virginia Tech. Those guys were freak athletes, huge arms, and they ultimately switched to tight end in the NFL because they had
He's
big size and good athleticism.
he's a tight end.
Um,
I'm not joking.
I legitimately think he could play tight end well in the NFL. I look, the people compare like, oh, look at his stats in the SEC his final year compared to Anthony Richardson. Yeah, Anthony Richardson was 20 years old and improved a lot over that time. What you're
Mm-hmm.
looking at with Joe Milton was a guy who was consistently like okay throughout the entire year, and it was at best like the average of Anthony Richardson throughout that year throughout just in the 6 year of college compared to his first year starting at 20 years old. There's a huge difference. And not to mention, Joe Milton is a great athlete. No, no, great athlete. Anthony Richardson was a generational athlete. There's a difference.
All right. So Brooklyn Rentals asked, "What's your plan at quarterback if the Giants take Neighbors Odunze at 6?" It's a good question. It's the question. Um, and I'm not sure I have a good plan at quarterback if they don't take the quarterback early, other than to say you really need to have a plan to trade up back into the first round and grab either Michael Penix Jr. or JJ McCarthy. I think those are your targets at that point. Or I guess maybe Bo Nix. But one of those guys you have to trade up and get. I don't think you can sit pat at 39. I think you have to move up and make sure you secure one of them. They are quarterbacks. They are solid players. They are not, in my opinion, going to fall as far as some people think they will. Um, Hoping they fall to 39, I think, is really wishful. It could happen, but I wouldn't bank on it in a league star for quarterback play. So I think your plan is to trade back into the back half of round one. What do you think, Monty?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think if you're gonna pass on it, I think you have to have multiple quarterbacks you're happy with. You can't trade. You can't go like Neighbors and a Dunze at 6 and saying JJ McCarthy's the only quarterback I'd be happy with taking after this. It just it's too risky at that point. But if you go with that and say like I'd be happy with Penix, I'd be happy with Nix or whatever it is, but like even if your preference is one guy, then you got to go. And when one of those guys come off that board, you need to be doing everything in your power to move up before the next guy can go off the board and and go secure your guy, get your fifth year option, and it's a risky play. That's how you capitalize value, though, man. It's risky, but that's how you get the best out of a draft. So we'll see what they end up doing with that.
I see Kenny G asked, what are your thoughts on Spencer Rattler? Um, Very quickly, really highly graded prospect, top prospect in the country coming out of high school. Just never panned out, man. Has all the talent in the world in his arm. His problems are up here. I think that he has shown a lot of inconsistency. He doesn't process the game very well. He makes a lot of bad decisions. At this point, I'm not. I don't think the Giants are in a position to take a guy like him. I think he's a development. He's a true developmental quarterback. He's a guy with a lot of talent, with a live arm, who needs to go to a good coach who can develop him behind a starting quarterback that a team already has. That's not the Giants. We've talked about this. Kansas City comes to mind. Teams that have a quarterback that want to develop a young guy, I think that's where he needs to go. But he is not at all a solution to the Giants' problems, in my opinion.
Yeah, man. I don't think I think he has baseline NFL ability where I could see him thriving as a backup in the NFL. And I think if he can develop his mind and really, take his time, like you said, get land in a situation like Kansas City and just sit there, learn, get used to the speed of the game, and he obviously has the NFL traits. A comparison I used was like a Tyrod Taylor. I know they don't have the exact same skill sets, but you think of a guy who went to Baltimore, sat there for 4 years, was in a stable organization, got out, and he got his chance in Buffalo, and he showed it. And I think if they tried starting Tyrod Taylor first, second, even third year, like I think that would have been an epic failure for him. I think the fact that he got to sit and learn and in a good organization under good coaches helped him tremendously. And I think that's the path to try to Rattler being an NFL quarterback and kind of having that type of career.
I agree. Faris Mutano, I'm hoping I'm saying your name right, asked if all the quarterbacks are gone by
Oh,
six.
sorry. Wrong one.
He asked if all the quarterbacks are gone by six. Were, well, actually, is that the question he asked? No, I thought he asked another question. I'm sorry. I think he asked a question about what if McCarthy. No, yeah, he asked what if all the quarterbacks are gone by six? Are we going neighbors or Jonesy? I think that's. I don't think all the quarterbacks will be gone by six, but yeah, it would be one of the wide receivers in my opinion. I think we would all agree on that. And then uh, another question: do you prefer to draft towards need, disregarding draft position value, or positional value, or is it always BPA? In my opinion, it is positional value plus BPA. The one caveat is quarterback. The value of a quarterback, a guy who touches the ball on every snap, cannot be underestimated. So I think if you need a quarterback and you have a quarterback that you think is a franchise level quarterback, you take him. Monty, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, man. I think that you use tiers and with tiers of like level of prospect with positional value. I think quarterback kind of breaks that rule. I think on the other end of position like running back can break the rule on the other side. But like for example, if I'm drafting blue chip prospects, I'm going to take the blue chip prospects basically until they're all gone, and I will weigh positional value within those blue chip prospects. But once those are gone, unless it's a really low value position, I will keep picking those, even if it's a safety, let's say, like a little bit less, but still like up there as a valuable position. For example, a couple years back with Kyle Hamilton, I was for taking Kyle Hamilton in the right situation because I saw him as a blue chip prospect, even though it wasn't the most valuable position by some people.
Yep. Cap Boogie asked, what if McCarthy or Penix is gone before Shane gets the opportunity to trade up? That is the risk, man. We say it's risky to take wide receiver first or lineman first and try to trade back up. That is the risk. I mean, you're gambling. And if you gamble, I always say this on spaces when we talk about it, don't miss. Joe Shane, if you're gonna skip on quarterback with that first pick because you think you can play the board and you can get the wide receiver, don't miss. Make sure you get up high enough in that pick to get your quarterback. If you miss on quarterback and just took a wide receiver, and then you're left with somebody else asked a question here about Rattler in the fourth round. Yeah, if that's what you're left with is Daniel Jones and Spencer Rattler and Malik Neighbors, you fucked up and you just got Brian Dable fired.
Yep.
I don't
And
think there's any way to put it.
yeah, I think if you're risking your job at this point, and if you miss it, look, I mean, you probably have a different head coach, maybe even a new GM next year, and that's the risk. And if you want to play that game, it's your career, man. I hope you get it. I hope you nail it because you're the GM of my football team, and I want you to do the best. But
Yeah, and Cap Boogie also followed up. Odds that Dable could be replaced next year, especially if Slovak, Ben Johnson, and more are available. I think that depends on what happens in this draft, to be totally honest. I'll be very honest. I think if they get a quarterback on day one and Dable does what he's supposedly best at, which is developing quarterbacks, he saves his job. I think if they don't get a quarterback early and things don't fall into place where he cannot develop the guy and he can't find a way to make the team look good, he's toast. I would put his odds of surviving next year at best at 50-50. What about you, Monty?
yeah, I'm probably about there. Like I said, if you draft a quarterback for round one, especially if you can move up and get a guy like Caleb, May, if a guy like Jaden Daniels falls like in our mock, that's gonna help him a lot. And I think having a young quarterback is gonna help some of these patients from fan base, from our ownership all around. But if they can't get that, it's not gonna help patients, and it's basically playoff for bust with a quarterback coming off an ACL injury who really wasn't that great to start with. So,
Atone 23. Would you draft Michael Penix at 6 or trade back and draft him there? That's a good question. I personally feel that if you believe the guy's the first round quarterback, you just take him. I say to hell with the board. If he's a franchise quarterback in your mind, you don't play games with him. You just draft him. I know that sounds crazy to people who are looking at the consensus rankings and all that. But if at the end of the day, Michael Penix, in your mind, is a starting NFL quarterback who you think is a franchise guy, it doesn't make a lot of sense to trade back and take him. So I would just take him. What about you, Monty?
look, if they take him, that there's a guy, I'll support it. I have where I see him as a borderline round one, round two grade, partially because of that injuries for sure. That makes me nervous. I have Penix Nix kind of in that tier for different reasons. I would be much more excited about taking Penix than I would be Nix at that point because I see upside with much more upside, especially in our system. I wouldn't love the pick, but I know quarterback's the most important position. I do see upside. If that's what happens, that's what happens.
Doug Analytics, our friend who provides us with incredible data that I love citing at 6 o'clock in the morning. Which realistic prospect would you be most upset if they're picked at 6? If they take an offensive tackle, I am going to throw something very heavy at whatever TV I'm in front of. At 6, look, Ola Vashanu and Joe Alt are fantastic prospects, but we have spent a lot of draft capital on offensive linemen early. I don't think that's the right solution here. So, and I know I don't necessarily agree with everybody on this, but I would be upset if we took a guy like Joe Alt at 6. What about you, Monty?
Yeah, that's when I saw this question. That's the first thing that popped in my head, and the person popped in my head was Joe Alt. And I mentioned this to you, man. I don't think it's entirely unrealistic. I think something to keep in mind is Tim McDonald is he coached at Notre Dame. He's a Notre Dame alum. He's gonna have a lot of say in this. There's obviously a lot of need to fix the offensive line. I think there will be people in that room who want um Joe Alt. I think Tim McDonald being one of those people, and he has a lot to say. I don't necessarily think it will happen, but I would say it's realistic, and that would be the one that would make me upset. Out of the most out of really. I'll give you another one. I'll give you one more. Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers is realistic. A great player. A great player. But we've said it before. My thing with drafting a tight end is if you draft Brock Bowers, you're drafting him to be a top 3 tight end in the league. If he's anything short of that, it's a miss of a pick. Anything short of that, he's a miss of a pick. While you draft a Malik Neighbors, he's a top 20 wide receiver. That's still a good pick. You are a top 3 tight end, or it's a miss.
Yeah, you have to be a Hall of Fame white tight end to make that work.
And don't get me wrong, an elite tight end is as valuable as any position for the most part outside of quarterback, but it's not likely.
Momo424 asks, is JJ McCarthy going to kill the combine? For those who have lived under a rock, Momo424 is the telltale heart of Giants Twitter, the heartbeat of Giants Twitter, telling you all the uncomfortable truths that you don't want to listen to. So Momo was asking, is JJ going to kill the combine? Momo, I think JJ is going to absolutely obliterate the combine. He reportedly runs a 4.4-ish 40. He has, I don't care what anybody says about his arm. I've seen this kid's arm. He has an absolute fucking piss missile. The kid has a cannon. He's going to be unloading it. I think he's going to do really well in the drills, throwing the ball. He's going to show his athleticism. So, yes, I think JJ is going to kill the combine. Monty.
I have a prediction right here for everybody in this chat. JJ McCarthy will run a better 40 at the combine than Jaden Daniels.
I wouldn't be shocked. I really wouldn't be shocked.
So
he's really fast. He's very fast. All right. I lost track of things because I always get distracted by Momo's greatness.
That's all right. I'll put one up on the screen.
D-Kit, would you guys rank the Giants' need in this order? Quarterback, O-line, wide receiver, edge, cornerback. I would probably place wide receiver over O-line, D-Kit, if I had to put them in order. But I would say wide receiver and O-line are almost equivalent. So I would say that's a pretty good ranking. What about you, Monty?
I would say wide receiver. I would say edge is our second biggest need or quarterback. Sorry, quarterback. I would say your second biggest need. I think a team is edge. I really do. I think we desperately need it. O-line's such a big need, but like at the same time, like guard's such an easy position to draft. Just fucking haven't done it. And it's one I want to.
We just suck at it.
Yeah, it's one I want to do in free agency and just get it done with. Then I think wide receiver and cornerback are very close for me. I think we need we need more of a true wide receiver one than we do like a true corner one. I have more confidence in Banks, but we have a better filled out room at wide receiver, so it's almost even for me. I'll go wide receiver over corner, but it's very close.
It's very close. The way I look at it is this is a multi-year process. If you actually accept that you're rebuilding, you don't care. You just take advantage of the board. You go BPA. The best teams, they don't do this like by need, position by position. They just take the best player, honestly. But I think to answer your question, I would probably put it similarly to how you put it. I would probably put wide receiver a little bit ahead of O-line, and I think edge is right there with it. I'm looking for more questions. Do we have any more questions? All right.
Yeah, you want to just do one more?
Yep.
All right.
However many you want. I don't care.
Let's say.
This is early for us. We usually record a lot later than this.
That's true. We can see how many more we got. I haven't been looking.
We still have people paying attention. As long as there are people in this chat, we'll keep going.
All right. So you see the one on the screen?
Why do you think, from DKIT again, why do you think it makes a difference how many games you play in college football, especially in the era of NIL? So we have addressed this many times when we've talked about prospects, that the way you grade a prospect, depending on what year they're in, matters. So we grade sophomores, true sophomores or second-year players very differently than we grade third-year players. We're projecting a leap from year to year to year. So, if, for example, not that PFF is perfect, but we like to use PFF only because it gives us a point of reference that we can then build upon. That's the only reason we use it. And they do some good data analysis. If you are, let's say, an edge rusher, and your pass rush win rate as a sophomore is 16%, and then you're comparing it to a junior who's at 18%. That sophomore has way more upside. And I think you have to look at the physical traits, but I'm more excited about the leap from the sophomore. So in that case, I'm leaning towards the guy who's played less games, who has more time to develop, because chances are he's what, 19, 20 years old? Um, I think that's where it matters. When you get above a certain threshold, I think when you're talking about the seniors and the super seniors, I don't think it matters that much, to be honest. I don't know how you feel, Monty.
Yeah, I mean, I think you nailed it. It's just about you should be at a certain level based off a certain age. A lot of people do it, analysis on this, like data analysis, and you'll see it as a graph, and it'll be like go up and up and up based on your age, and your production is supposed to be at this level, it's supposed to be at this level, it's supposed to be at this level, and they'll put these players on the graphs based on that and show them where they are in that each season based on that. So essentially, you look at a guy like Bo Nix and Michael Penix, you see that those guys improved and got to those. They're hitting all the marks that you want at that point in college. While you see a guy like Joe Milton, who is playing like a like low for what a 20-year-old would be doing. Like when we're looking at Anthony Richardson at that age, we're probably like, this guy is not even necessarily where we want him to be, but at least he's a physical freak. That makes up for it. But like it doesn't make up for it as much when you have that many games played. On the inverse, I will say though, with this, it also makes a difference, I think, with how many games you play in a positive sense too. I think people underrate where if you've played that many games, being able to come into the NFL and not have to get as much playing experience to get to where some of these players are is a good thing. I mean, in a league where you don't get as much time to develop anymore, I think it's important that team guys start to take advantage of the NIL and keep taking advantage while you can of these COVID red shirts and get as much experience in college while you can, man, because you're not going to get as much of it once you get to the NFL.
And by the way, we're going to see more of that. I think you're seeing coaches leave college because they don't know how to navigate all these transfers in the NIL portal. I'm going to call it the NIL portal because that's what it basically is. But I think you're going to see a lot more of that. You're going to see guys stay out later in college, which in the end, over time, I think is going to even out to a better NFL game. You're going to get more guys coming in who are ready to play. But the bottom line is, I think you have to take into account what age they are and how many games they've played and project out. So I would give a lot more leeway to a younger player to answer your question. Let me see.
I got another one.
Where all right, go ahead. This is again from DK. With all the rule changes in the NFL to protect the quarterback, it doesn't matter whether you are 22 or 24 guys are playing longer at that position. I think it's more of a comment. I would agree. I think guys are playing well into their 30s. Cap Boogie, Sal, how lazy are the JJ to Zach Wilson, Daniel Jones comparisons if they take him at 6? This pisses me off to no end. JJ McCarthy is a well-coached quarterback. JJ McCarthy is a high-end talent. He was a highly recruited quarterback. He was a 4-star recruit coming out of high school. He has played under a supremely gifted coach at Michigan whose calling card is protecting his quarterback. He does this everywhere. He runs a run-heavy game. He plays a lot of power football, and he teaches them how to be good decision makers. Zach Wilson was a one-year wonder at BYU. To be fair, the Zach Wilson comp as a prospect is not crazy, in my opinion, because Zach Wilson was a very good prospect. I think where we miss things is Zach Wilson's competition level at BYU wasn't great. He did it for only 1 year. And I think there was more wow factor with Zach Wilson as opposed to a steady football play. So I don't think that that's a fair comp. When it comes to Daniel Jones, I think that's a ridiculous comp. Daniel Jones was a 0-star recruit coming out of high school. He was a guy that really wasn't all that good at Duke. He was a guy that most people had rated as like a mid to late day 2 grade at best. He struggled with processing. He didn't have great arm talent. He struggled with decision making. What he had for him was that he had David Cutcliffe as a coach, and he had a big arm. I mean, he had a big frame, and he could run. Very different from JJ McCarthy, who's a very good processor. He has much better arm talent, much better coached, in my opinion, at least. Better prospect. I don't think it's a good comp. Monty?
Yeah, man. I mean, I think the Zach Wilson one you mentioned, I don't think it's a terrible comp. I mean, I think you look statistically, they kind of grew at a similar rate. They have a similar like frame. They have, they both are traits guys. I mean, like you said, it's not all bad things. Like Zach Wilson was picked highly for a reason. And I think he brings some of that arm talent and ability to work off structure that Zach Wilson brought and reason he got picked so highly. But I'll say JJ McCarthy has thrown more snaps within structure despite them barely letting him throw the ball than Zach Wilson did throwing the shit out of the ball his final year. And also, this is a big difference, I think, too, is one of the big reasons Zach Wilson failed was mentally. Zach Wilson was a
Yeah.
fucking loser his entire life. He lost in high school. He went to a program that didn't do anything. I mean, in high school, they fucking won the state championship the year after he left. They didn't do shit in college, and now he hasn't done shit in the NFL. JJ McCarthy has been a winner at every single level. He won in his local high school in Illinois. He went to IMG, won a national championship, went to college, won a national championship. This is the shit that people are going to love about it.
You know how
It's
many
his
games he's
intan
lost in his? You know how many games he's lost combined in high school and college?
5, 4,
3.
3. Yeah.
He lost 2 games in high school,
Oh, you're right.
one
Yeah, it
game in
was 3.
college.
He's a winner,
And
man.
I know that the stat heads, and I'm a stat head, but the stat heads are going to say that's quarterback. Wins and losses are not quarterback stats, and that's kind of true. But it does kind of matter when you're assessing these guys when they're the top athlete on the field or when they're playing at the highest level. When the chips have been down, Michigan has put the ball in his hand. I know he doesn't have great stats. I know they run a run heavy offense, and it's completely fair to say we haven't seen him do it at the volume that other guys have. That's a fair criticism. That is probably the only reason we're not talking about him as like a top 10 pick, to be honest. But when Michigan needed conversions on 3rd and long, 4th and long throughout the last 2 years, they put the ball in his hand and he converted, and they won a lot of games. That's not coincidence. I would not discount that value. So no, I don't like the comp. I think the kid's a winner. I think he's going to have a very successful NFL career. I'm going to stand 10 toes down on that. I believe in JJ McCarthy as a player. I don't know if he's a Giant or not, but I think he's going to have a very good NFL career.
Yep. And I'll say he has really good stats and money downs on the 3rd down, 3rd and long. They put the ball in his hands. He's gained a reputation around Michigan for that, to go on to what you're saying. But yes, I agree. Here, you'll like this question, Sal.
1T. Is Penix stock going to the moon or Mars? Penix stock is going to the former planet known as Pluto. 1T. I don't. Let me just go. Can I go on my soliloquy here?
Go for it.
The slander of Michael Penix Jr., in my opinion, is the most disgusting display of ridiculousness that I have ever seen in college football evaluation. Yes, he's been hurt. Yes, he's a little older. He's been through some shit. Have you watched this kid play football for 2 years? Because all I see is a guy who plays every fucking game. A kid who comes out and wins just about every fucking game. Did you hear him at the Senior Bowl? Did you hear his interviews? He was humble, confident. He was in command. He understands leverage. He can read defenses. Did you see the clip about him reading defenses? How he can read a cover 6 and understand which side is cover 4, which side is cover 2, where he goes through his progressions. He understands leverage. He knows how to read DBs. He knows how to manipulate DBs. The kid is a baller. People need to get over the bullshit. You know a winner when you see one. Michael Penix Jr. is a freaking baller. He is a quarterback. He has a goddamn rocket that God blessed onto his arm, on his left arm, his 36-inch arm, or whatever the hell it is, right? With his 10 3/4-inch freaking man hands. He's smart. He's been through some shit. He's been through all sorts of adversity. And you know what he's done? He's come out the other end smiling, winning, looking like a champ. Michael Penix Jr. is a baller. And if you don't understand that, and a lot of teams are not going to understand that, and you don't want to take him, you're going to be looking back a year from now, NFL GMs, and saying, how the fuck did I miss on that kid? Michael Penix Jr., he deserves to go at the top of this fucking draft in the top 10, in my opinion. All right? So screw everybody who doesn't agree with you. Screw everybody who thinks he's garbage. The kid is a baller. Free Hooley.
There we go. All right. Yeah, man. Hey, the one thing I'll add is what you say, man. This kid got his ass fucking kicked. He was holding his goddamn ribs, leaving the national championship. 3 weeks later, this dude's showing up to the Senior Bowl, and he's fucking like nothing ever happened. You don't see that type of shit, man. He deserves a lot of credit for that.
Jabri wants to get me a purple silk do-rag for my bald ass head. Jabri, I will grow cornrows with my bald spot. I got to get implants for that shit. All right. What do we got? What's next?
Okay. Let's see. Right here.
All right, Chris. If the Patriots and Chris Peace, by the way, great guy. If you guys don't follow him on Twitter, follow Chris Peace. One of the nicest dudes you'll ever come around. Anybody who talks shit to Chris Peace is a scumbag. I saw one person talk shit to him, and I'm like, you are a scumbag. But I'll leave it at that. If the Patriots and Commanders do Patriots and Commanders things, would you have a choice? Or have a choice of May and Daniel sitting there at 6? Who are you choosing? This is easy. I'm taking Drake May. What about you, Monty?
And it's not a question for me. I mean, you know that we're lower in Jaden Daniels than some other people, but it's more than that. It's not just being lower in Jaden Daniels to me. To me, Drake May is like a first overall pick in almost any other draft class. I'm not going to say he's better or worse than any of these players, but just put it in perspective. These are some players that I see in the tier of Drake May. I see a Joe Burrow in the tier of him. I see an RG3 in the tier of him. I see a Cam Newton in the tier of him. I see an Eli Manning in the tier of him. I see him in this level. I think he's just a tick below of a guy like Trevor Lawrence, just a tick below a guy like Peyton Manning, just a tick below a guy like Andrew Luck. But I think he is like right at the top after those guys. And Caleb Williams, he just happens to be in a draft with Caleb Williams, who is closer to those top guys than he is to the next guys.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Drake May is a legit prospect. He's probably the most underrated prospect in a weird way right now in this class.
Crazy.
It's crazy. Drake May is, look, I get it. He's big, he's white, he's stupid, he's Josh Allen, he's Justin Herbert, he's a big dummy. I get it. And everybody's like, oh my God, he's an idiot. But these idiots can ball. This kid is an athlete. Remember, he's a family of like NCAA like champions at North Carolina, like track athletes, basketball players, football players. He was a lacrosse champion. I know one T hates that shit, but he played lacrosse. One T has this weird hate of lacrosse, even though he was like a lacrosse baller. It's weird to me, but it's fine.
That's why I didn't want Peyton Wilson, because Peyton Wilson's a former lacrosse player.
Of course. But no, he's a freak athlete, dude. He's a special kind of player. Give me Drake May. If he falls to me, put him on the Giants. Dable knows how to work with these kind of big idiots. Put him on there. Let him cook. He'll be a great Giants. I'll happily take Drake May over Jaden Daniels. No disrespect to Jaden Daniels. I don't think they're in the same tier, personally.
Yeah, for a lot of reasons, people hate on Drake May is why I love him. Look, he is who he is. Is he going to throw picks? Yeah. Is he going to fumble sometimes? Yeah. But is he going to make heroic plays to win you football games and put the team on his back over and over again? Yes. And he will, and he has the talent to do it. So those type of players who can just put a team on the back don't come around very often. And it's so clear to me he is one of those guys.
Absolutely. All right. By the way, I feel like I'm more awake doing this live shit. It could be the beverages I've had. I don't know. But I'm enjoying this. So we might do more of these. What do you got here? Sal, was Penix better than J.J. McCarthy at age 20? No. Honestly, he was not, because he was hurt a lot. He was in the running for the Heisman early on. He was having a Heisman-like year at Indiana before he got hurt. I want to say that was that his third year, Monty? I don't remember at Indiana.
I think so. I think he was leading the Big Ten in both passing yards and passing touchdowns.
I would say the answer to that question is he was probably equivocal to where McCarthy was around that time.
McCarthy was a Heisman candidate earlier in this year too. So
right, and McCarthy's production fell off because Sharon Moore took over and decided to run the ball 90 times per game. When Jim Harbaugh was suspended, and Penix got hurt. So I would say it's close. I think it's closer than people realize. But it's a good question. I would say close. Very close, almost equal.
All right. So we're running out of questions, so we'll get through the last couple here.
Tez Walker being slept on. I think Tez Walker, North Carolina wide receiver, a kid who missed 4 games due to this weird NCAA ruling on his eligibility. It was a stupid ruling. It's a long story, but Tez Walker is a really good receiver. If you guys watched our wide receiver, actually, no, it was our Senior Bowl review. I really like Tez Walker. He's a very smooth athlete, smooth route runner. The issue with Tez Walker is sometimes he doesn't finish the play. I think he drops the ball a little bit. I don't think his numbers are crazy high, but he's a very smooth player. I don't think he's being slept on by the draft community. Last I heard, he's being given first round grades, right?
Yeah, he's up there, and I'll say to Tez Walker's credit, he's had a lot of drops here. I think he had 3 yesterday at the Senior Bowl, but only had 3 all this season. So it might just be a little bit of yips and things along those lines.
He's a really good football player. Look, if the Giants had Tez Walker, let's say the Giants got, I don't know, Penix, JJ, whoever in the first round, and then in the second round, Tez Walker sitting there, you take him. He's a good football player.
This is the way I see it. We see him a little bit different. You're a little higher on him than me, but this is the way I see it. I don't think you're that far off him. I think he's a really good athlete. I think he's a really solid football player. He does a lot of things well. I just don't see like a game breaker, and I don't see like a difference maker. And that's where I kind of fall a little bit on him. I don't see as much upside as some other people say.
You're being a hypocrite.
Why is that?
Why? Because what does he do well?
He runs routes pretty well.
He finds soft spots in zone, right? He's a big target. He presents a good target for his quarterback. Who did you and I both love more than anybody in last year's draft?
Jordan Addison.
That's exactly what Jordan Addison did. Now, he's not as good as Jordan Addison. I get that. But I'm saying that the prototype of a receiver who runs a complete route tree, runs them proficiently well, and knows how to bend them a little bit to find soft spots in zone, that's somebody you do want. I actually think he's a player that I would want on my team because he becomes a quarterback's best friend because he's a target, right? If you're a quarterback going through your progressions and you're looking towards Tez Walker's side, he will find the throwing lane for your quarterback. I like him a lot.
I like him. I'll say this to the point of like I do love like those route runners, stuff like that. Is if he wasn't 6'3" and was a freak athlete, do we are we looking at this highly of him just off of his talent as a wide receiver, or are people really falling in love with him because he's a size speed freak who has a little bit of that to his game?
Does it matter? He's a size speed freak who can run routes.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't think he's a dominant player. I like him, but I see him as more of like a late round 2, early round 3 type guy.
I think you're being a little bit low on him. I do think I don't know if he's going to go round 1. I'll agree with that. I think he's a 1 to 2. Like I think when Brugler comes out, with the beast, he's going to have Tez Walker firmly in that 1 to 2 range. I really do believe that.
I don't disagree. That's just not necessarily where I'll have him.
And I'm sorry I'm being so demonstrative with my hands. That's just what I'm doing. So just get used to it, everybody. I'm seeing comments that we love the live experience. We appreciate it too, guys. We might do more of these. I just got to get my kids to sleep. That's the issue always. I gotta drug them a little earlier. All right. 1T writes, is Jerry Rice's kid gonna rise? Where is he going? Brendan Rice out of USC. I don't think so. What about you, Monty? I don't think he's rising. I think he's going like round 3.
I mean, he's having a really good Senior Bowl. He's the athletic kid. I think that he's showing a little bit more than what people thought he had. I don't think he had the best season. I can see. Where'd you say you think he's going to go?
Top of round 3. Like pick, let's say 65 to 75 in that range.
If that's where he's supposed to go right now, then no. But
where do you think he lands?
I think about in that range. I think it's going to be somewhere early round 3. I just think he was a guy who was going. I felt early day 3 in a lot of what I was seeing.
He doesn't separate. I mean, I know Full-time Dame had some clips of him today, and it's like, oh, he does separate. I like him a lot. But in game situations, he has an alarming lack of separation in real game separation. In real games, he just didn't. Remember, Caleb Williams was out there making magic happen because remember his receivers weren't doing a whole lot of anything out there. Brendan Rice was a key part of that receiver core. I think he's a good player. I don't think he's a good separator. In my opinion, he's a possession receiver in the NFL. I don't think he's much more than that.
Yeah. All right. I think that's all we have for questions, unless I'm missing any.
Let's go through them real quick. D-Kid wrote that Tez Walker had the fastest GPS at the Senior Bowl. I think
Yep.
I saw that.
I think at least on day one, he did.
Yeah. All right. I do think we're done. So that's a mock draft. We appreciate you guys. It's our first live episode. We love doing it. Hour 40. This is short for us. So we appreciate you guys keeping it brief. We love you guys for joining us. We'll probably be around on Twitter later tonight, tomorrow, as always, whenever. We'll do more of these. We'll take suggestions for whatever you guys want to do, but we do have some pretty cool episodes coming up. We got to think about our sequence of things, but we're gonna have some pretty cool guests on. I think you guys will enjoy that. Some big names in Giants land, hopefully. Some really brilliant minds in terms of draft, big boards and draft process. So hopefully as we get closer and closer to draft, we're gonna have cool people. We love you guys. We appreciate you guys. Monty, you have any closing thoughts here?
Just make sure to follow us, at He's a Giant Pod on Twitter. Follow me at Monte Cristo, MONTECR5TO. Follow Sal at Queens_guy. Again, appreciate you guys for all your support. Make sure you subscribe if you don't already. Like this video. Again, thank you guys so much for all the support you've given us. And it was a fun time having you guys all in the chat. So we'll definitely do this again.
We only have 6 likes. What is wrong with you fuckers? Hit the like button.
Hit that like button.
Hit that like button before we close it out. No, we thank you guys for tuning in and staying up late. We'll do more of these, but we're gonna have a lot of fun. And somebody asked about draft night. What are we gonna do? We're not sure, but I'm seriously contemplating being up in New York for the draft. So I hope to meet up with a bunch of you guys if I can make that happen. But yeah, we might think about doing a stream. Who knows? We'll see what happens. But we'll be here next week with you guys. I think I like this this live thing. We'll probably try it again. We'll see how it goes. But you guys have a good night. Go Giants.
Go Giants.